The diamond ring caught the morning light like a trap. 3 carats of pure regret glittering on Stella Hartwell's trembling finger. Her head pounded, with the weight of champagne and terrible decisions as she stared at the massive stone that definitely hadn't been there when she went to bed. The taste of last night's mistakes coated her tongue like ash. "This can't be real," she whispered to her empty apartment. Her phone buzzed against the nightstand. An unknown number lit up the screen. "Good morning, Mrs. Cross. We need to talk. My office, 1 hour. Your husband, Damian, Mrs. Cross." The words hit her like ice water. Stella's stomach lurched as fragments of memory clawed through the alcohol-soaked haze. The Golden Rose Bar. That arrogant billionaire with his perfect suit and cutting remarks about her art being charming but worthless. The heated argument that somehow spiraled into something else entirely. Her best friend Ruby burst through the bedroom door, carrying coffee and wearing yesterday's mascara like war paint. "Please tell me you remember more than I do about last night," Ruby said, shoving her phone forward. "Because there are photos on social media that look suspiciously like a wedding." The screen showed a blurry image. Stella in white, radiant and drunk, exchanging rings with Damian Cross while strangers cheered in the background. The woman in the photo looked deliriously happy. The woman staring at it now felt like she was drowning. "I argued with him," Stella said slowly, pieces clicking into place. "He said my paintings would never sell, that I was wasting my talent on dreams. I told him he was everything wrong with the world." "And then you married him," Ruby said grimly. "At 2:47 a.m., according to the timestamp." The taxi ride to Cross Industries felt like a funeral procession. Stella twisted the ring that refused to budge from her finger, watching the city blur past through rain-streaked windows. The towering glass monument to Damian's empire loomed ahead, all sharp edges and cold light. The elevator to the 42nd floor moved like liquid mercury. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world of marble and crystal, where even the air seemed expensive. Damian Cross stood behind his desk like a king surveying his domain. He was devastatingly handsome in the way that powerful men often were, all sharp jawlines and calculating gray eyes. His presence filled the enormous office, making Stella feel small and exposed. Stella. Her name on his lips sent an unwelcome shiver down her spine. Punctual. "I appreciate that in a wife." "I'm not your wife," she said, though the ring burned against her finger like a brand. "Whatever happened last night was a mistake." He opened a leather folder and slid several documents across the polished desk. "These contracts suggest otherwise. Witnessed, notarized, and legally binding. According to the terms we both agreed to, you belong to me for the next 6 months." The papers swam before her eyes. Her signature was there, elegant and confident next to his bold scrawl. "This is insane. No court would uphold a drunken marriage contract. You'd be surprised what's legally enforceable when properly executed." His smile was sharp as broken glass, especially when there's video evidence of both parties enthusiastically consenting. Heat flooded her cheeks. "You recorded it?" "Insurance policy." "You were quite passionate about the arrangement last night. Almost poetic, really. The way you described how much you hated me but couldn't resist the challenge I represented." The words felt like a slap. Stella gripped the arms of her chair, knuckles white. "What do you want from me?" Damian leaned back, studying her with the intensity of a predator sizing up prey. 6 months of your life. Your complete cooperation. In return, I'll fund your art career properly. Gallery showings, connections, everything you need to prove your talent wasn't wasted on dreams. And if I refuse, then you'll spend the next decade in court fighting breach of contract suits. Your little coffee shop job won't cover the legal fees." He paused, letting the threat sink in. "I always collect on my investments, Stella. The question is whether you'll make this easy or difficult for both of us." The office felt like it was closing in around her. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawled beneath them like a chessboard. She was just another piece to be moved at his will. 6 months, she said finally, her voice barely a whisper. 6 months, he confirmed, standing and buttoning his suit jacket. "Starting now. Pack your things. You're moving in tonight." Damian's penthouse apartment was a masterpiece of cold perfection. All black marble and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a god's-eye view of the city. Stella stood in the foyer, clutching her single suitcase, feeling like an intruder in a museum. "Your room is down the hall," he said, loosening his tie with practiced efficiency. We'll maintain separate spaces. This arrangement is business, not pleasure. The guest room was larger than her entire apartment, decorated in shades of cream and gold that probably cost more than she made in a year. A wardrobe filled with designer clothes in her exact size waited like a perfectly laid trap. "How did you know my measurements?" she asked when he appeared in the doorway. "I'm thorough in my research." His gray eyes swept over her with clinical precision. "Dinner's at 7. Don't be late." The dining room table could have seated 20, but they sat at opposite ends like warring generals negotiating a ceasefire. The food was exquisite and tasted like cardboard in her mouth. "Tell me about your art," Damian said, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "Why do you care? Yesterday you said it was worthless. Yesterday I was testing you. Tonight I'm investing in you." He set down his knife and studied her across the expanse of mahogany. "I've seen your work, Stella. You have talent. Raw, unrefined, but genuine. That's rare." The compliment caught her off guard, warming something in her chest she didn't want to acknowledge. "You've seen my paintings? I own the building where the Moonbeam Gallery rents space. I make it my business to know what happens in my properties." He leaned forward slightly. "Your piece about urban decay and hope, the one with the broken windows letting light through, it stayed with me. She hadn't expected this, hadn't expected him to actually look at her work, let alone remember it. "Why did you really do this?" she asked quietly. "The marriage contract. The threats. You could have any woman you wanted. Why trap me?" Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. "Because you're the only person who's looked me in the eye and told me the truth. Everyone else sees dollar signs. You saw a monster." He picked up his wine glass, swirling the dark liquid. "I find that refreshing. So this is what? Some kind of twisted game? This is a transaction. I need a wife for 6 months to satisfy the terms of my grandfather's will. You need funding and connections to launch your career. We both get what we want. And what happens after 6 months? We get an annulment. You walk away with everything I promised. I get my inheritance." His eyes locked onto hers. "Unless you decide you want to stay." The way he said it sent heat crawling up her spine. Stella stood abruptly, her chair scraping against marble. "I should go to bed." "Running away, Mrs. Cross?" "Retreating strategically, Mr. Cross." His low laugh followed her down the hall. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into an uneasy rhythm. Damian left for the office before dawn. Stella painted in the spare bedroom he'd converted into a studio, surrounded by canvases and the smell of turpentine. They had dinner together each night, conversations growing longer, walls slowly crumbling. She learned he took his coffee black and bitter, that he played piano when he couldn't sleep, filling the penthouse with haunting melodies at 2 a.m., that his father had built the Cross empire through ruthless ambition, and Damian had inherited more than just wealth. He learned she hummed while she painted, that she'd grown up in foster care, bouncing between homes, never belonging anywhere. That art was the only thing that made her feel real. "Show me," he said one night, appearing in her studio doorway. She'd been working on a new piece, something raw and vulnerable. A figure reaching toward light but trapped behind invisible barriers. Damian stood close, studying the canvas with intensity that made her breath catch. His cologne, sandalwood, and something darker filled her senses. "It's you," he said quietly. "Isn't it? Trapped but fighting. Maybe it's both of us." His hand brushed hers, fingers lingering. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. "Stella," he breathed, turning toward her. Her phone shattered the moment, buzzing violently on the table. Ruby's name flashed across the screen. "I should take this," she whispered, hating the disappointment in his eyes. "Take it." He stepped back, walls slamming back into place. "I have work to do anyway." She answered as he walked away, Ruby's frantic voice filling her ear. "Stella, you need to see this. Someone leaked photos of you and Damian to the press. They're everywhere. And there's something else." Ruby's voice dropped. "They're calling you a gold digger, saying you trapped him, but that's not the worst part." "What's the worst part?" "There's a woman, Vanessa Blackwell. She's claiming she and Damian were engaged before you." "That you stole him." Ruby paused. "Stella, she has photos, receipts, an engagement ring. This looks really bad." The canvas blurred before her eyes. The figure reaching for light suddenly looked like a fool grasping at nothing. "I'll call you back." Stella whispered, ending the call. She found Damian in his office, bent over contracts, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up as she entered, saw her face, and immediately stood. What happened? Were you engaged to Vanessa Blackwell? The silence that followed was answer enough. Were you engaged to Vanessa Blackwell? Damian removed his reading glasses slowly, setting them on the desk with deliberate precision. Yes. The word hung between them like a blade. When? Stella's voice shook despite her efforts to steady it. 3 months ago. We broke it off 6 weeks before I met you. 6 weeks. She laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. So when you said you needed a wife for your grandfather's will, you failed to mention you'd already had one lined up. What happened? Did she get smart and run? She chose my brother. His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath the skin. Marcus offered her something I couldn't. What? A heart? Honesty. The admission seemed to cost him. She wanted love. I wanted a partnership. She found someone who could give her what she needed. Stella's hands clenched into fists at her sides. So I'm what? The backup plan? The replacement model? You're nothing like her. He moved around the desk, approaching slowly like she was something wild that might bolt. Vanessa was comfortable, safe, expected. Your fire and chaos and everything I didn't know I needed. Don't. She held up a hand, stopping him. Don't try to make this into something romantic. You used me. You knew exactly what you were doing that night at the bar. The insults, the challenges, pushing my buttons until I was angry enough to make stupid decisions. I didn't plan what happened that night. But you didn't stop it either. You saw an opportunity and you took it. Just like you take everything. Her voice cracked. I was right about you. You are everything wrong with the world. He flinched like she'd struck him. If that's what you believe, then why are you still here? The door isn't locked, Stella. You can leave any time. And spend the next decade drowning in legal fees? You made sure I was trapped. I gave you a choice. His eyes blazed with something dangerous. You could have refused, could have called my bluff. But you didn't, because part of you wanted this. Wanted me. I hate you. I know. He stepped closer, invading her space until she could feel the heat radiating from him. But you hate that you want me more. Her palm connected with his cheek before she registered the decision to move. The crack of skin on skin echoed through the office. Damian's head snapped to the side. When he looked back at her, his eyes were molten silver. Feel better? Not even close. She turned to leave, but his hand caught her wrist, spinning her back. They stood chest to chest, both breathing hard, the air thick with fury, and something infinitely more dangerous. Let me go. Make me. She shoved him. He didn't budge. She shoved again, harder, all her rage and confusion pouring into her hands. He caught her wrists, pulling her against him. I hate you, she said again, but the words came out broken. I know, he whispered against her hair. And then somehow his mouth was on hers, fierce and demanding, swallowing her gasp. She should have pushed him away, should have held onto her anger like armor. Instead, she kissed him back with equal fury, channeling every emotion into the press of lips and clash of teeth. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers dug into his shoulders. They broke apart for air, foreheads pressed together. This doesn't change anything, she gasped. I know. I still hate you. I know. His thumb traced her swollen bottom lip. But at least you're honest about it. Her phone rang again, shattering the moment. This time it was an unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. Ms. Hartwell, this is Rebecca Chen from the Ashford Gallery. We've been following your work, and we'd like to offer you a solo exhibition. 3 months, full marketing support, opening night reception. We're talking major exposure. Stella's heart lurched. The Ashford Gallery. It was one of the most prestigious venues in the city. That's incredible. Yes, absolutely, I accept. Wonderful. We'll send over the contracts tomorrow. Oh, and Ms. Hartwell? Give our regards to your husband. Mr. Cross's recommendation meant a great deal to us. The line went dead. Stella lowered the phone slowly, looking at Damian with new understanding. You did this. I made a phone call. The rest was your talent. No. She shook her head, backing away. No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to manipulate me and then buy me off with the one thing I've always wanted. It's not manipulation. It's what I promised you. It's control. Everything with you is about control. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You can't stand the idea of me having something that isn't tied to you. Of me succeeding without your name attached. That's not true, isn't it? You've spent weeks learning everything about me, studying me like one of your investments. But you've told me nothing real about yourself, about Vanessa, about your family, about why you really need this marriage. Her voice rose. You want honesty? Here it is. I'm terrified of you, not because you're cruel, but because you make me feel things I swore I'd never feel. You make me hope, and hope is the most dangerous thing I can have. The vulnerability in her words hung between them. Damian's mask cracked, something raw and human flickering across his face. My grandfather's will has a clause, he said quietly. I inherit everything, but only if I'm married and can prove it's real. Not a business arrangement. Real. He wanted to make sure I didn't end up like my father, alone and bitter at the end. So you need me to pretend we're in love. I needed to marry someone I could stand being around for 6 months. Someone who wouldn't bore me or worship me or try to change me. He ran a hand through his hair. And then you walked into that bar, looked at me like I was dirt under your shoe, and challenged everything I thought I knew about what I wanted. Damian. There's a board meeting in 2 weeks. Everyone who matters will be there. My father's old partners, the shareholders, Vanessa and Marcus. His eyes met hers. I need you beside me. I need them to believe this is real. And what do I get in return? Besides the gallery showing you bought for me, the truth. He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to hold his gaze. I'm falling for you, Stella, and it terrifies me more than any business deal ever has. Before she could respond, his phone lit up on the desk. A message preview showed on the screen, from Marcus Cross. She doesn't know, does she? About the real terms of the will? You're worse than father ever was. Stella's blood turned to ice. What doesn't I know? What doesn't I know? Damian's face went carefully blank, the vulnerable man from moments ago vanishing behind his corporate mask. It's nothing. Marcus is trying to stir up trouble. Don't. Stella's voice cut like steel. Don't you dare lie to me again. What are the real terms of the will? Silence stretched between them, thick with dread. If the marriage fails, he said finally, each word seeming to cost him. If we divorce or annul before the 6 months, everything goes to Marcus. Not just the inheritance. The company, the properties, all of it. And there's a penalty clause. You'd owe the estate $5 million for breach of contract. The floor seemed to drop out from under her. $5 million. Her voice came out hollow. You said I'd walk away clean. You said we'd get an annulment and I'd be free. You would be free. I'd pay the penalty. But if I left early, if I couldn't make it the full 6 months, I'd be destroyed financially. Forever. Understanding crashed over her like ice water. That's why you were so confident I'd stay. It wasn't just the legal fees. You made sure I could never afford to leave. I needed insurance. You needed a prisoner. She backed toward the door, vision blurring. This whole time, every kind word, every vulnerability you showed me, it was all just another manipulation, another way to keep me compliant. No. He moved toward her, but she held up a shaking hand. Stay away from me. Stella, please. Let me explain. Explain what? That you're exactly who I thought you were? That everything I feared was true? Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. I was starting to believe you, starting to think maybe you actually cared, that maybe I wasn't just another acquisition. You're not. What I said before about falling for you, that was real. Was it? Or was that just another strategy to keep me cooperative? To make sure I'd smile pretty at your board meeting and convince everyone we're madly in love? She laughed bitterly. I'm such a fool. You didn't need to fund my career. The contract already made sure I was yours. The gallery showing is separate. That has nothing to do with the will. Everything has to do with the will. Everything you've done, every choice you've made, it's all been about securing your inheritance. I'm just a means to an end. That's not true anymore. When did it stop being true, Damian? Yesterday? This morning? Or 5 minutes from now when you need something else from me? She grabbed her jacket from the chair. I need air. It's midnight. I don't care. She ran before he could stop her, through the penthouse, into the elevator, out into the night. Rain had started falling, cold and cleansing against her burning skin. She walked without direction, letting her feet carry her through empty streets. Her phone buzzed. Damian's name flashed across the screen. She ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. Finally, she answered. "What? Where are you?" His voice was tight with worry. "It's not safe." "Since when do you care about my safety? I'm an investment, remember? Just make sure I don't get damaged before the board meeting." "Stella, please. Come home. We can talk about this." "Home? That's not my home. It's a gilded cage you trapped me in." She stopped under a streetlight, rain streaming down her face. "Did you know I was going to fall for you? Was that part of the plan too?" The silence on the other end told her everything. "You did," she breathed. "You knew I was vulnerable. Knew I'd never had anyone believe in my art before, so you weaponized it. Made yourself into exactly what I needed." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me, Damian. Because from where I'm standing, you're just another person who saw me as something to use." "I saw you as someone extraordinary," his voice cracked. "Someone brilliant and fierce who deserved better than serving coffee while her talent rotted. I saw myself at 23 before my father broke me down and rebuilt me in his image. I wanted to save you from that. I didn't need saving. I needed honesty. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry." A car pulled up beside her. Damian stepped out, hair plastered to his forehead, dress shirt soaked through. He'd run after her in the rain. "Go back inside," she said. "Not without you. I can't do this anymore." "Then we'll find another way. I'll pay the penalty myself. You can leave tonight if that's what you want." "And watch you lose everything because of me? That's not a solution." He closed the distance between them, cupping her face in his hands. "You're more important than any inheritance. More important than the company, the board, all of it. If you want to go, I won't stop you, even if it costs me everything. You're saying that now, but you'll resent me later, when your brother has everything, and you're left with nothing. I'll have the memory of the last 3 weeks, of watching you paint in the morning light, of learning how you take your coffee and what makes you laugh, of kissing you in my office and feeling alive for the first time in years." His thumbs brushed away her tears. "That's worth more than any amount of money." "You can't mean that." "Test me. Walk away. I'll transfer enough money to cover your expenses for a year. You'll never owe anyone anything. You'll be free." The offer hung between them, tempting and terrifying. "And the gallery showing? Still yours. No strings. I'll make sure they know it has nothing to do with me." It was everything she'd wanted. Freedom, career support, a clean break. All she had to do was walk away from the man who'd lied to her, manipulated her, trapped her. The man who was standing in the rain offering to sacrifice everything for her. "I need time," she said finally, "to think, to figure out what I want without you in my head confusing everything." "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe forever." Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. "I'll have Marcus's lawyer draw up papers releasing you from the contract. You'll have them by morning." "Damian." "Yeah?" "That night at the bar. When you insulted my art, did you mean it?" "No," he smiled sadly. "I was trying to get you to leave before I did something stupid, like fall for someone completely wrong for me." "How'd that work out?" "Terribly." She almost smiled, almost let herself believe this could work. But trust, once broken, was nearly impossible to rebuild. "I need to go," she whispered. He released her, stepping back. Stella turned and walked away, every step feeling like tearing herself apart. She didn't look back. If she did, she'd never leave. She returned to the penthouse only to grab her things. Damian was in his office, door closed. She could hear him on the phone, his voice low and defeated as he spoke to lawyers. Her suitcase was still mostly packed. It took 5 minutes to gather everything else. On her way out, she paused at the studio he'd created for her. Canvases lined the walls, weeks of work staring back at her. The unfinished painting of the figure reaching for light caught her eye. On impulse, she picked up a brush and added one final element, a second figure standing just outside the frame, watching. She left it drying on the easel and walked out without saying goodbye. Back at Ruby's apartment, she collapsed on the couch and finally let herself break. Ruby held her while she sobbed, asking no questions, just offering silent support. "I love him," Stella whispered. "God help me, I love him and I don't know if I can forgive him." "Love and forgiveness aren't the same thing," Ruby said gently. "You can love someone and still walk away." Her phone lit up. Not Damian this time, but an email from the Ashford Gallery. As promised, the contract had arrived. She scanned through it, looking for any sign of Damian's influence. There was none. It was clean, professional, exactly what any artist would receive. A second email came through, from Damian's lawyer, the release papers, just as he'd promised, along with a bank transfer confirmation for $50,000 and a note. "For your art, no strings, no expectations, just a gift from someone who believes in you." She stared at the screen until the words blurred. He was letting her go, truly letting her go, and she had no idea what she wanted anymore. 2 weeks passed like years. Stella threw herself into preparing for the gallery showing, painting until her hands cramped and her eyes burned. She created new pieces, raw and honest, channeling every emotion into canvas and color. Ruby watched her with concern, bringing food she barely touched, and coffee she drank religiously. "You need to eat something besides grief," Ruby said on day 12. "I'm eating." "Crackers and self-loathing don't count as meals." Stella set down her brush, staring at the painting before her. Another figure reaching for light. She'd painted 7 variations in 2 weeks. "I keep seeing his face," she admitted, when I told him I needed time. "He looked like I'd destroyed him." "Good. He earned it." "Did he, though?" Stella turned to face her friend. "He lied, yes. He manipulated the situation. But in the end, he was willing to lose everything to let me go. That has to count for something." "It counts for him having a conscience. Doesn't erase what he did." "No, but maybe that's not the point." She wiped paint from her hands. "Maybe the point is whether I can live with loving someone morally gray. Someone who makes terrible choices but owns them. Can you?" Stella looked at her paintings, all those figures reaching for light while shadows tried to pull them back. "I don't know. But I think I need to find out." Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "The board meeting is today, 2 p.m. I know I have no right to ask, but if you're willing to talk, I'll be at the Golden Rose Bar tonight, 9 p.m., where it all started. No pressure, no expectations, just a conversation." She stared at the message for a long time. "What do you want to do?" Ruby asked. "Something probably stupid." "That's my girl." At 1:45 p.m., Stella stood outside Cross Industries, wearing a red dress that made her feel powerful. She'd spent an hour debating whether to come, another 30 minutes in the lobby gathering courage. The receptionist looked up in surprise. "Mrs. Cross, we weren't expecting you. I'm not staying. Just delivering something." She took the elevator to the 42nd floor. The executive conference room was easy to find. Through the glass walls, she could see Damian at the head of a massive table, surrounded by men in expensive suits. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes she'd never seen before. Marcus sat across from him, Vanessa at his side. They looked smug. Stella pushed through the doors. Every head turned. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, voice steady despite her racing heart. "But I have something to say." Damian stood slowly. "Stella, you don't have to do this. I know, but I want to." She walked to his side, acutely aware of every eye on them. "These last 2 weeks I've done a lot of thinking. About trust, about forgiveness, about what it means to build something real with someone who's hurt you." "Stella," he breathed. "Let me finish." She turned to address the room. "My husband made mistakes. He wasn't honest with me about the terms of our arrangement. He manipulated circumstances to serve his goals. In any other situation, that would be unforgivable." Marcus leaned forward, victorious smile spreading. "But he also did something no one else has ever done. He saw me, not as a project or a trophy or a means to an end, but as a person worth investing in. Worth believing in, worth sacrificing everything for." Her hand found Damian's, fingers intertwining. "And when I needed space, he gave it to me without conditions. Released me from every obligation. Offered me freedom even though it cost him the one thing he'd worked his entire life to secure." She looked up at Damian, seeing hope kindle in his eyes. "That doesn't erase his lies, but it shows me who he is under all the armor. Someone capable of growth, of putting someone else first, of love." She squeezed his hand. "So if the question is whether this marriage is real, If it's built on genuine emotion and commitment, the answer is yes. I love him. Flaws, mistakes, and all, the room erupted in murmurs. Marcus's face darkened. Vanessa looked away. An elderly man at the end of the table stood, leaning heavily on a cane. Well then, he said, in a voice that commanded silence. I believe that settles the matter. The terms of the will have been met. Damian, congratulations. You've proven you're more than your father's son. Grandfather, Damian breathed. You're supposed to be in Switzerland. I've been watching this whole situation unfold with great interest. The old man's eyes twinkled. Did you really think I'd leave the fate of my company to a clause in a will without seeing how it played out? He gestured to Stella. You chose well, boy. She's got fire. You're going to need that. Marcus stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're really going to buy this performance? It's not a performance, Stella said quietly. And honestly, I don't care if you believe it or not. I'm not here for you. I'm here for him. She turned back to Damian, blocking out everyone else. I'm sorry it took me 2 weeks to figure out what I wanted. I was scared. Of being hurt. Of being wrong. Of hoping for something that couldn't exist. But I'm done being scared. If you'll have me, I want to try this. For real this time. No contracts. No clauses. Just us figuring it out together. Damian's hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone with infinite tenderness. Are you sure? Because once you say yes, I'm never letting you go. I'm terrified, but I'm sure. He kissed her in front of the entire board, deep and claiming and full of promise. When they broke apart, the room burst into applause. Even some of the stern-faced executives were smiling. Marcus stormed out, Vanessa trailing behind him. Damian's grandfather clapped him on the shoulder. Now the real work begins. Marriage is harder than any business deal, but infinitely more rewarding. I'm beginning to understand that, Damian said, pulling Stella close. The meeting adjourned. They fielded congratulations and handshakes until finally, blessedly alone in Damian's office, the door closed behind them. You came, he said simply. I came. Why? Because I looked at all those paintings I'd created and realized they were all the same. Figures reaching for light but too afraid to actually grab it. She moved into his arms, fitting perfectly against him. I was tired of reaching. I wanted to hold on. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. She pulled back slightly. We need rules, though, real ones. Complete honesty, even when it's hard. Communication, not manipulation. And if you ever lie to me again about something that important, I'm gone. No second chances. Agreed. Anything else? Yes, I'm keeping my own bank account. And my studio stays mine, no matter what happens between us. Done. And we're getting a dog. He laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. A dog? A big one. This place needs something alive in it besides us. Whatever you want. He pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, Stella Hartwell Cross. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of that gift. Just love me back. Honestly. Imperfectly. That's all I need. 3 months later, the Ashford Gallery opening was packed. Stella's paintings lined the walls, each one selling within the first hour. Critics raved. Collectors bid. Her career launched like a rocket. Damian stood in the corner, watching her glow as she spoke with admirers. Pride radiated from him like heat. Ruby appeared at his side. You look disgustingly happy. I am. If you hurt her again, I'll destroy you. I don't care how rich you are. I know. Get in line behind my grandfather. Ruby studied him for a moment, then nodded. Good. As long as we understand each other. Stella caught his eye across the room. The smile she gave him was pure sunshine, chasing away every shadow. That night, they stood on the penthouse balcony, the city sprawling below them. A massive golden retriever named Chaos dozed at their feet. Tell me something true, Stella said, leaning against the railing. I knew that night at the Golden Rose. The moment you told me off, I knew you were going to change everything. Did you try to stop it? For about 5 seconds. Then I decided to jump. She turned to face him, moonlight catching in her hair. Scared? Terrified. You? Always. She kissed him softly. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe with anyone else. He produced a small box from his pocket. Inside was a new ring, simple, elegant, nothing like the massive diamond from that first morning. "Marry me again," he said. "No contracts, no clauses, just us, choosing each other every single day." Tears streamed down her face. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring on her finger, and she realized the engraving inside read, "Where light breaks through." "From your painting," he explained. "The one you left in the studio. The figure reaching for light and the figure watching. I finally understood what it meant. What did it mean? That we're both reaching, both watching, both trying to find our way to each other through all the broken places." He pulled her close, and that maybe, together, we can be each other's light. She buried her face in his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her cheek. They'd been broken. They'd been scared. They'd hurt each other and made terrible choices. But they'd also chosen to reach through the darkness and hold on. And sometimes, that was enough. Sometimes, that was everything. The end.